let's get into, we were talking about this downstairs a little bit because I talk a ton about my past and my sobriety now. And you get in as deep as you want and not as deep as you want, but people that listen and watch the show, I bet 50% of them are in recovery or went through struggles in their life in that regard. And I think that they listen here a little bit just to have someone to relate, to understand that other people have went through the same shit that they've went through or are going through right now, like as we're talking, and they don't see the light. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel because how could you, right? Because when you're sitting in that darkness, it doesn't seem like you can come through that tunnel and there's ever going to be light, right? Yeah. And so I'm very intentional about when people are here that have went through that and they've been in the darkness, but they found the light, to touch on it at least a little bit and tell people a little bit about what you went through. And again, not reiterating the stuff that we already talked about, and then how you broke through, whether it was a person or a moment or you know what I mean? Yeah. Like whatever it was. But if you could just give us 5 minutes on that, however deep you want to go, but I think that's important for the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this, when I used to share my story, one of the biggest things that I noticed some people did, like I went to AA, NA and things like that. And I always found the most miserable people usually had 25 to 30 years. And it wasn't everyone, right? You had the ones that were very happy, very content. That was the driving force that like allowed me to see. I think the thing that really hurt me the most is when people shared their story, they spent 90% of the time talking about how they got fucked up and didn't do that. So I don't want to spend my time there.
Right.
Here's what it was. Growing up, I came to a place where it was a different country. I spoke no English whatsoever. On a plane, I learned my name. Boris is my new name. 30 days, I learned how to speak English, but I always felt like I never fit in.
You were 4.5 though.
4.5. Okay. But like mentality wise, as a kid, you start feeling these things, right?
Yeah.
My first experience, I'm sitting in a playground. They're like, who is this? Who is this? And I'm like, no. My name is not who. Is this Boris? And so like those things, it's like, it automatically made me feel like I did not belong.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I always realized that how do I fit in is by making sure I'm the loudest person in the room. Right. Oh. And now I use that completely different today. The loudest person in the room is because that is who I am. Right. I am the loudest person in the room. But I didn't do that intentionally in the right way. I did it because I needed the attention versus doing it because that's who I am. They're just loud, right? Yeah. I'm a loud person. And so as I got older, I used different things to mask it. First, it was making fun of myself. Then I got really fat. Then I lost a lot of weight. And I think like as I got older, I never shared it. I didn't know who to talk to. My parents were always working. I mean, we came to a country, both of them worked 3 jobs, spent a lot of time at the house by myself or somebody else's house down the street.
What skill set did they come to the country with?
So, I mean, my mom was a teacher.
Not to go off track.
No, my mom was a teacher, really didn't like have any skill set like that. My dad was a restaurant entrepreneur out there. And so he took that skill set and worked for Pizza Hut and like a corporate level, like things like that, and went into the food industry. But there was no skill set where they had a degree where they could change it over. My mom's college degree didn't transfer over to America.
Right.
But they knew that this was a better place for us to live.
Yeah.
And they knew that they would do anything for it.
Right.
I did not see that. So I was like,
of course not.
Like I see friends with their parents and I'm like, what is wrong with me?
Right.
Right. And that's how, and I never shared that. I didn't know how to share. Russians don't just share their emotions.
Right.
My dad would call me a pussy if I share my emotions.
Yeah.
And so, it got harder and harder, and like this.
And he might have been right, but that wasn't the reason.
I was a pussy, sure, 1,000%. Aren't all 6, 7-year-old kids, boys, fucking pussies?
Yes.
But the problem is like I did not know, like mentally, you know what I'm saying? It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And as I'm getting older, more things can become present, right? You get to smoke some weed, or you get to drink some alcohol, or the next level thing is you get into the harder stuff. And eventually you find something that masks that emotion.
Yep.
Alcohol never did it for me.
Right.
Weed clearly doesn't. It just makes me hungry.
Right.
And his uppers, I'm just 2 in my head. It was the depressants and downers, right? It wasn't alcohol, those downers. It was the opiates that is tearing apart. And it's like, that was the thing I found. And eventually it wasn't about masking it. It got physical, right? And so I died 3 times. And I realized on my 3rd one that I was not going to die. I was either going to live that miserable fucking piece of shit life or I was going to get better. And I think that was the waking moment. It's like, And I tell this a lot of people. I've buried a lot of friends. And one thing that I've told people, especially guys that have died, when they ask me, like, how'd you do it? I was like, I had to find peace either two ways. Down there in the ground or here, right here with myself. When I found that, and I honestly realized that I don't care what other people think, because that's the shit that drove me. And when I got being able to get sober and clear-minded of it, that's what really allowed me to start getting more comfortable with my skin.
Right.
And so, like, there's people that they're in the rooms for the rest of their lives. And I applaud them, but don't be in there for the wrong reasons, right?
Right.
If you're sitting there bitching about everything that's going on and you keep talking about your drug use from 40 years ago,
Right.
what have you solved in that room?
Right.
For me, it was like I knew what I need to work on. And sometimes I'm here, I go down here, but I know how to pick back up, right? And so, I mean, a lot of people don't know when to put that shovel down. So.
If you can't be authentic, this here interview's finished. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Get the fuck out if you can't be authentic. Yeah. Swipes.